Good morning, everyone. So, funny story about what happened with the first vlog of a new season. I had voice commands enabled, I still do, on this GoPro. And since I was talking about functions of cameras and stuff and recordings, it picked up on that and it understood exactly what I said and did exactly what I said because it lacks context. So it turned off my camera, and I was driving and stuff, so I was paying more attention to the road than to the camera. The blinky red light stopped. I should have noticed that, and it did make a little beep at the time, I think. But anyway, that's why the video yesterday ended so abruptly, is because I have that still turned on. I need to turn it off when I get a chance to. The whole reason, you know, that's one of the features I think that is involved with sorry, I was just thinking about something. That's one of the features that is one of the reasons I got an Android phone as a remote, and kind of disappointed with Android in general, and it's like I ended up getting a cheapo Android phone from Amazon. It was like $100 and it's got ads on it, but I'm really only using it as a dev platform and as a remote for my GoPro, so not a big deal. But anyway, yeah, so I'm a little disappointed with the Android device. I mean, it's that one thing that's nice is that the apps that it has, which it seems to have an app for everything. I mean, now whether or not they're good apps or not, you know, that remains to be seen. I've tried a bunch of them and they're like so-so. But some of the apps I've gotten, I have the Windows Phone version, and they're clearly richer. But you know, that seems to me like an issue where they either had the B team, or you know, some intern probably working on the Windows Phone app maybe all by themselves, or maybe a small team or whatever. Also, compared to Android, I think the Windows Phone platform, for development reasons, it is a little more restrictive. So I think in an Android environment, you might say, well, we want to add this feature, and then you just go and do it because the OS doesn't really restrict you that much. In Windows Phone, you know, you might end up with a feature where you're not allowed to access some hardware, and you know, for performance and security reasons and stuff like that. And that's one of the things that ultimately kind of, you know, it annoys me about the Android platform, is that while the individual apps are okay, the actual experience from the OS level is not as mature as what I'm used to. And that to me makes sense, because Android is a mobile OS and a tablet OS. It's not a desktop OS. And so when I'm used to having Windows 10, or a subset of it even, on my phone, it's a very rich subset, and it shows the maturity. So, you know, I've got all these, you know, Universal Windows Platform apps, and it's the same app as on my computer, just running on my mobile device, and that's really handy. It's also really nice because you don't have to change where you look to find everything. I mean, there are a lot of apps on Android that are made, you know, they're the same apps, they're made by the same people as made the apps on my PC, but the app is different. Even the Microsoft apps, a lot of those, they were purchased by third-party developers as, you know, popular apps in their own right. Microsoft bought them, changed the name or whatever. I've heard of that happening in a couple cases. In other cases, Microsoft makes their own things. But you know, you need to match the ecosystem that you're in from a usability standpoint. But it's just irritating for me to just hop back and forth between ecosystems when I'm used to just, you know, it's Windows 10 everywhere. It's Windows 10 on my Xbox, on my, you know, same exact apps on my Xbox, on my phone, on my computer, on my tablet. tablets, all this. So I think rather than, I was just telling someone on Twitter, I'm at Mark Noble on Twitter if you want to follow me there. I do a little bit of chattering, and that's a great place to ask questions for the vlog or whatever. I'm not so inundated with questions and comments that I don't get to them usually. I was telling the guy yesterday, he was like wondering about there's a feature that they were taking away on Cortana, which is the ability to listen to music and tell you what song is playing. And he's like, well, I guess I'm gonna have to go to Android for that. And it's like, well, I mean, first of all, that, of all the Android functionality, I mean, I haven't really used that functionality in my month of using Android. I actually did that. I may have used Cortana to do it on Android, but if the feature is leaving Cortana altogether, I'd need to backfill it with something. And I've heard that there are at least 2 options that people have suggested. I haven't had a chance to research them. I've used Shazam in the past, and I think the other one might have been SoundCloud or something like that. So it's something I might be able to backfill, or maybe even, since Cortana's going to have Alexa as a skill, then I might be able to just use the Alexa skill through Cortana, but that sounds a little more clunky because I'm going to have to invoke a skill to do that. I'm not exactly delighted with how that works. I wish it were more transparent, where you could, say, subscribe to a skill, and then once you did that, you would be able to say, it would just add the things that skill can do that don't conflict with Cortana. It would add those things to what she can understand natively. So right now it seems a little branding heavy. It's like, do a such and such brand action, and I can understand that from a certain, I can understand why they're doing that, but to me it's just more things you gotta say. And honestly, I'm not that into brands anymore. I used to be much more brand conscious, and now sometimes I'm like, oh shoot, what is that brand I was going to, I mean, there's so many brands out there. I think a lot of people are probably in the same boat. So so that's what happened with yesterday's vlog. Voice commands ended it prematurely. I'm gonna try and fix that using my Android GoPro remote, which I didn't want to spend like 100 to 150 bucks on a device without a really good screen. That it would have probably been a much more reliable remote. I've found that that Android is really it's not very responsive, connecting to the GoPro device through Bluetooth. So what it does is it connects to the device via Bluetooth, and then you start issuing your commands. And a lot of times I have to go through 3 or 4 times of trying to connect it. And so, unless I'm probably going to end my phone contract on it, because I initially got it, I wanted to try it out like as a LTE connected device, and I'm not getting a lot of benefit. It was nice checking out some of the driving apps. I liked Google's Map app, which I've heard a lot of people use, but I ended up just using Waze most of the time, because I like it seems to be more proactive about routing me around problems. I didn't try all of the map apps every single day, so I didn't have a great comparison, but on different days I would use different apps. And one thing I noticed is I made a trip from Columbus to Cincinnati, and I got on the road, and it was routing me a way that I thought was a little weird. But then we got on the freeway, and we saw that traffic was stopped, and the police were having everyone get off the freeway. So I had my wife go and look up on the news what was going on the freeway, and there was a double fatal accident that Waze routed us around. And I'm sure Google Maps would have routed us around it too, but I'm not really sure about other stuff like that. So, but I saw something interesting on the news on Twitter this morning. It was Bernie Sanders did a post about a bunch of billionaires who wanted to be taxed more. And I thought that was kind of a ridiculous notion, because if it's voluntary, it's not taxation. So if I want to be taxed more, then it's not, it's like if I want to be punched, you know, then I'm sparring in a fight, right? And it's voluntary. So it's not wrong if two people want to get in a boxing ring and punch at each other, because it's voluntary for both people. But if you hang out outside of a bar and jump someone that you had a disagreement with inside or whatever, then that's assault. So, you know, you can't have someone, you don't see boxers say, I love assault, I want to be assaulted, because everyone understands that once they want it, it's not assault anymore. So it's the same thing for rape. If someone said, I want to be raped, well, that's not rape anymore, it's consensual. The definition of rape is that it's non-consensual. And it's the same thing with taxation. Taxation is non-consensual. Look it up. It's compulsory. Compulsory is the opposite of consent. So if you compel someone to do something, they're not consenting. And if they are consenting, there's no need to compel them. You know, it's not a thing. I don't have to go around and compel people to, you know, I don't know, walk down the sidewalk. I mean, I suppose someone could stand around and, you know, block the sidewalk, and I might go and say, hey, can you please step aside, or excuse me, and, you know, I ask them to move aside. But if I did compel them, if they were standing on the sidewalk and I just shoved them out of the way, that would at the very least be battery, and depending on how hard I did it, it could rise to the level of assault. And both of those are non-voluntary. So in a peaceable society, we just voluntarily do stuff. So I thought it was interesting coming from Bernie Sanders. He makes way more money than I do, helping far fewer people. Because, I mean, chances are the work that I do, you know, you tangentially touch it every day. Or if not you, then someone, you know, who's helping you, who's serving you. Because I write software, and it's, you know, it's part of a tool that's widely used, you know, throughout business, and it's from a leading vendor and stuff like that. So it's really hard to avoid that kind of stuff. But, you know, Bernie Sanders doesn't really help me, and, you know, he's not my rep. He doesn't care what I think. And honestly, you know, most of my reps, when I write them what I would like for help, then they just send me a letter that says that they understand what I'm asking for, but they are not going to do it, and they will keep what I want in mind while they're voting against it. So that's what representation is like for me, and probably for you, honestly, unless you want the same things that their millionaire donors want, which you know, it's possible, but probably a coincidence. Probably not for the same reasons. So the most interesting thing I wanted to tell people is, if you genuinely do, you know, you can't want to be taxed, because that is not taxation anymore once you want it. But if you do want to donate to pay off the national debt, or to donate to the United States government for a variety of things, there's actually a website for that. It's pay.gov, and if you actually do a search, pay.gov, and then donate, then it takes you a more direct link. The site's a little confusing, you know, the navigation and stuff. It's just probably easier to just type pay.gov and then type donate into your favorite search engine, and it'll get you deeper into the site to the actual donation page. Because a lot of the things at pay.gov are things that, you know, they kind of make it seem voluntary, but you know, they're paying various fees and fines and stuff like that. So yeah, you can pay that stuff on pay.gov, which is compulsory and not voluntary, but they do have a section where you can do a voluntary payment to the US government. So anytime I hear someone who says, I want to do that, I'm like, hey, go ahead, go to pay.gov, donate, and be sure to put a picture of your receipt from doing so on Twitter. I would love to see you put your money where your mouth is. If you really genuinely believe that you need to give more money to the United States government, and that that's the best way that your money can be spent, then do it. Let's see you do it, and lead by example. And you know, maybe if a lot of good comes from that, then a bunch of other people will do it too, but not me. So have a good morning, and I'll see you tomorrow.